All right, so welcome, Sally, to this afternoon session.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. So, yeah, I've done our little check-in. Shall we have a little look at the quote? And there's a couple of paragraphs to read, and then we'll go into the lesson. How much time do you have, by the way?
2 hours.
Okay, let's see if we can get through the lesson as well. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. So if you can read the quote, which is from the course as well.
You who want peace can find it only by complete forgiveness. You can want peace. You who want peace can find it only by complete letting go.
Yeah, not translated language. So that's from early in the text. So Yeshua's telling us, right up front, this is the only way. Only. It's a very simple statement, isn't it? You who want peace, so you really want peace, you can find it only by complete. Not halfway, not sort of, I'm going to try and forgive, but not really do it. Complete forgiveness. And really this course is a course in complete forgiveness, saying this is what complete forgiveness means, or radical forgiveness, completely letting go. What does it actually mean to do that? And that's why we do the mind training, because it's so deep and so profound to completely let go and not hold. You were talking the other day about, I was still holding on to, the 10%. It's like a resident core belief in separation that we have to dislodge, which is extremely persistent. That doesn't go easily. So that's what he means by complete forgiveness, getting to the very, very core of the ego, which is just the belief in separation, and letting it go. So there's no remaining belief in separation in any way, shape, or form remaining in your mind when you finally have had your journey here, and you're ready to lay the body aside and leave. That's then that's the enlightened state. So all these experiences we have in life are lessons in learning complete forgiveness. Things trigger you. That's okay temporarily. You notice that, but then your only choice from this perspective is to let it go completely. Okay, so you want to read the first couple of paragraphs?
Today's quote from early in the text, Course in Miracles, clearly states the one and only means that you can find peace while you are seemingly living in this world. Only complete forgiveness, or translated into our alternative art of letting go language, letting go of all the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. As Yeshua calls the ego's thoughts and emotions in the introduction to the text, will bring you the peace of God, or in our alternative art of letting go language, the peace of perfect love that surpasses all understanding, as Paul referred to it in his letter to the Philippians.
Yeah.
Peace of perfect love, isn't that lovely?
Yeah, so the translation there really works, I think. It has a alliteration, and it just sounds really nice. The peace of perfect love. It's almost, you could say that as a kind of mantra, and it would take you into that peace, wouldn't it? The peace of perfect love. The peace. I have the peace of perfect love. I have the peace of perfect love. I have the peace of perfect love. Just such a nice feeling to it.
Yeah, very soft, very smooth.
Whereas the peace of God, it's quite God. God is quite a hard God. And if you say God, it's even more like clipped God. Whereas peace of perfect love, just like, it's got much more of the quality of what love really is, I think. So again, the words are just pointers, but they can be useful pointers to the state that they describe, which is why we use them to help us access that state more quickly and easily. So it's been called the peace that surpasses all understanding, because it's not intellectual understanding that will get you there. It's a feeling. It's not logical, really. In this world, if you think about it, it's not really logical to have peace, is it? You should actually be continuously fearful and worried, because it's very uncertain. You never know what's going to happen. Your personal life situation and the general kind of world societal situation is extremely unstable. It's like it's always changing. So how could you, from that perspective, really find peace when you never know what's going to happen, you never know what's going to change at any point? So from the world's perspective, it's really not logical to have peace. You should be continuously worried, anxious, nervous, saying, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I need to make preparations. I need to defend against, imagined threats. This is the ego's thinking. The only way you're going to have peace is to let all that go, as he's saying to us. Only complete forgiveness, which means letting go of any fear, any anxiety, any attack thoughts, any worry, doubt, fear, guilt, sin, and so on. All of those thoughts and emotions have to go. And that's why it surpasses all understanding, because logically those would seem to be impossible to let go of. In this world, that seems like, well, yes, fear is part of it. You don't know the future. So you have to go beyond the ego's logic to do this. Which is why I like the quote, surpasses all understanding, all logical understanding, all intellectual, rational understanding. It goes into an experiential understanding or knowing rather than understanding. Experiential knowing of the truth. And that's where these experiences are pointing us.
We're never upset for the reason we think we are. So we think whatever's going on in the form is the thing that's upsetting us, but it isn't, is it? It's usually something completely different. So you can't possibly understand.
Well, it's a trigger. What's happening on the level of form is triggering your own deep-seated belief in separation to arise in one form or another. And so it's never just about the form of the situation. The form is a representative of a deeper thought system that's now arising. So of course it's training us to see that, to recognize, okay, yes, there's this deep-seated arising of my egoic beliefs. And that's really useful to see. If you can see that everything is just showing you these beliefs. Every situation is a mirror showing you what you really believe. Then you have the key to undoing it, because you can then see the belief manifested. It's no longer hidden from you. So this is like being a detective. This course is training us to really look at the world and go, okay, so how is that reflecting my beliefs? What egoic belief is showing up? What's the block here that's been shown to me? Because if I can identify what that block is, I become conscious of it. Well, then I can let it go. Become aware of that belief. Go, no, that doesn't really make sense. That's not true. So I can release that. I don't have to believe that anymore. And then the situation has been useful for its true purpose, to help you to let go of whatever that belief was and free your mind. And then that's the true miracle, that letting go of the underlying egoic belief. And then on the level of form, that belief can show up in the physical, in the material, as, oh, okay, well then the situation resolves. Once it's done its work and you've become aware of the belief and you've let it go, then the situation can resolve. And you get a miracle on the level of form. So I mentioned yesterday, the internal and external aspects of the miracle. You've got in the integral model, the internal aspect, which is individual intentions, thoughts, emotions. So you do the shift on that level through applying, the radical letting go, complete letting go of the thoughts and emotions and the beliefs. And then on the exterior, that can show up as a change in behavior, outcomes change, and that's the external aspect of the miracle. But it comes from the internal aspect of the miracle. That's primary. So hence Yeshua says, seek not to change the world, the external, but seek to change your mind about the world, because that's what's primary and fundamental. Okay, so any questions, comments on those first two paragraphs?
No, I was just thinking about how I'm obviously practicing letting go, but it feels today like I have let go in some ways, but I'm not feeling the benefits of it yet. So does that make sense at all? It's like, I suppose I assume that if I can let go of an issue, it won't be in my mind anymore. I won't even think of it. But it feels like it hasn't completely gone, even though I feel like I've done the work on lots of levels. Obviously, there's another block there still somewhere.
Yeah, well, this is why it says, complete letting go, complete forgiveness. Only by complete forgiveness. So go to the very core of the issue, which is always a belief in separation in one form or another, and let it go. So there might be, some deep-seated childhood stuff, past life stuff coming up, and it's like, okay, we'll take it to another level. Really dig in and look at those thoughts and beliefs and collapse them. And if there's still some block there, which you feel, when you haven't completely let go, because you're not completely at peace. That's the barometer. There's still some stickiness in your mind. Issue's still sort of sitting there as a block. I mean, block is quite a good word, because it does sort of feel like a block when it's something sits there, doesn't it? It's like this thought, energy, emotion is like sitting there, and it's not all smooth and nice and peaceful. There's this kind of block, resistant feeling. And if you're still feeling that, then there's more letting go to do. So you could work through it with the 10-step process, the written process. You could do it in a meditation, do the 1-hour theta meditation, which will guide you through it. You could do the instrument for peace worksheet. All of those are methods to really go a bit deeper. So, okay, so let's try and surface the dregs of this. I might have done it on one level and I'm feeling a bit more peaceful, but there's still, like, what is the core belief? So maybe try the instrument for peace as first step. Work through that. See how that goes. If you've worked through it and it's released anything, you might go, oh, I actually see the belief now and I'm okay. Need more? Well, use the 10-step worksheet, write it down, work through it, and then do it as a meditation. So it's more like experiential, going into an altered state in the meditation. And if you do that triple whammy, I would think something's going to shift, almost certainly. It's going to take you 2-3 hours to do that, but then how committed are you to shifting the block? Because it might be a very deep-seated childhood thing coming up, and so it needs you to really dive in deeply into your subconscious. That's what you're doing here, and bringing it out of the subconscious into conscious awareness, seeing it, using these processes, and then through the processes being able to release it. So it's you become your own, well, the Holy Spirit's guiding you, but you just use these processes to guide you in this process of doing your own work to discover it and release it.
I do find the instrument of peace is amazing. I've done that about 3 times on this subject, and different things have come up. They're similar, but they're slightly different.
Mm.
praising, and each time it's like, phew, I didn't know that was there. That's really good.
Mm.
I did a half an hour theta. I should have done the hour, I guess. Yeah, and I haven't done the 10-step process yet. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, there's more you can do. The hour one is good because it really takes you into a deep state. I saw the benefit. I did an hour's meditation in one of the sessions I did up in Scotland. It was an afternoon session. It was just a meditation. It was basically 5-minute intro. This is Jono. This is what I do, and then okay, let's just do the meditation. And honestly, I think that was probably the most powerful session because people got an experience. There were 2 people who came up to me after and said, "Wow, no, that was really amazing." Julie was one of them. She did the meditation, and so experientially, she like felt something, and then forget the words and the talk and whatever else I'm doing. The actual experience is what did it for her. If it had been a 20-minute, she probably wouldn't have had, that deep level of experience. So, yeah, note to self: if we do it again, do another sort of roadshow like that. I'm going to do a longer meditation, and then I'll actually run a session. We'll run one of our discussion sessions, deep meditation, run the discussion, 2 to 3 hour session, really engage with people so they have an experience. It's like, oh, I actually experienced, I like the feeling, I like the experience. Yes, I want to do more. I think that was the key learning from that. I was trying to sandwich it all into a 2-hour talk with a bit of meditation. So it was like, okay, 20-minute, 25-minute meditation, that's long enough. And then, okay, now we've got to do the intro and do a bit of a talk and then have time for people to share. It all felt a bit squeezed in and rushed. So, yeah, I think a longer, like, say, okay, it's a 3-hour session. It's experiential. We're going to do a meditation. We're going to do actually a discussion session. So they get into the course. We'll do it on the introduction to the text maybe, and maybe one of the lessons and actually translate it and discuss it as we do, and then give people experience. I think that's how I would do a trip like that again. So it's all learning, you have to do something in order to figure that out, don't you? So
yeah, I think I listened to the recording of that one, and then you asked them afterwards, how was that? And they were still in that state and they couldn't answer. I seem to remember feeling into it and thinking, yeah, wow, they haven't got the words at the moment to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And then the lady she said, oh no, I think it was too long. And I was like, no, I don't think it was. I think that was actually an hour was exactly right, because it really gave some people might have felt uncomfortable with that, so there were some beginners there who might have struggled. But then are you going to set your level just at the beginner, to just for the beginners, or are you going to try and take some of the people deeper? So yeah, I think an hour, if I did it again, I'd do an hour and then maybe 2 hours of discussion. So you'd say, right, it's a 3-hour session starting at 7 till 10. It's like a mini kind of workshop, and come and experience it. And then we'll give you a taste of what this program's really about experientially. And if you like the feeling, then join. And I think that's definitely the way I'll do it in future. Okay, so where are we? Once again, Yeshua couldn't be more explicit.
Once again, Yeshua couldn't be more explicit about the way to experience peace consistently. Awaken from the nightmare of your peace. The nightmare of your peace being continuously disturbed by people, all right, circumstances and events in the seemingly external world of form. The only question is, will you listen to him and be willing to let go as continuously as the ego, which remembered is your stubborn belief in separation, tempts you to believe in separation in whatever form it takes? Or will you give in to temptation and indulge in separate and separating thoughts and emotions instead? Well, bit of both. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Well, it's a clear choice. He's saying very clearly. And in this journey, yes, there are going to be times where the ego comes in and it tempts you. But remembering the clear choice always. Look, I have a choice here. I can indulge this. The ego's arising. I can kind of go with this and allow it to consume my mind and go into a very negative state. Or right now, I've got a choice to let it go. I don't have to allow this. I have the awareness to see what it is, see what's happening. It's a hijack attempt by the ego to disturb my peace. That's the only purpose. To cover over the peace of perfect love, which is all the ego's ever trying to do. And right now, I can let it go. I can completely forgive or let go of the situation. And we always have that choice. So for me, the course is just lovely because it's very clear, saying, look, it's this or it's that. There's no ambiguity there. Make the choice, and these are not the same choice. Don't try and fudge this and say, oh, well, choosing the ego and choosing the Holy Spirit are the same. They're not. They are diametrically different and opposed. So you need to choose between them, and every time you get tempted, you have that choice. So make the right choice consistently. Really a very, very simple, teaching, because it's so clear. It's like, okay, it's this or it's that. And then he's training us through this workbook and the text to get very clear about, okay, well, what is that choice? What does that choice actually mean? What thoughts and emotions are egoic, and what thoughts and emotions are coming from the spirit? And I can identify that clearly, then the choice becomes crystal clear. Oh, okay, so I'm feeling fearful, I'm feeling upset in some way, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling guilty. Okay, I identify that emotion as clearly of the ego. This isn't serving me. I'm aware of that. So that the ego no longer has the power to confuse you into believing that it's you. So we can't let it go if we think it's us. Oh, well, this is just, I have a thought and emotion, and that's me. And I've identified so much of that there's no awareness outside of that. This is what the ego is always trying to get you to do. Your thought and emotion in the moment is you. So what it's telling you. So you have no choice. This thing's just got you, and you're a victim to it. You just have to be miserable and upset and fearful and whatever the emotion is. There is no choice, and I'm upset because of X, Y, and Z externally. This is the setup. Oh, well, you did it to me. Something or someone in the world did this to me. So I have no choice, therefore I'm upset. You made me upset. You made me angry. I mean, this is what children do, don't they? Mommy, my sister, brother, friend, whatever, made me angry, made me upset. This is the language, because they haven't learned yet that, no, they didn't make you angry. They did something which triggered your own anger to arise. That's what happened. And even adults, they don't recognize. Oh, we still play the blame game. So, this made me angry. As adults, it's very childish. No, it didn't make you angry. It triggered your anger to arise. That's the correct language. And you chose on a level to get angry, because as that emotion arose, that energy, you chose to allow it. You didn't have the awareness to say, no, I have a choice here. I can let this go. It's arising, and I can just let it pass away. So we always have a choice. That the feeling arises, and then what are you going to do with the feeling? So remember, I'll share a particular instance, because it was really a feeling of rising that I had. I was doing the name your game process for the first time. I hadn't done this before with in a workshop, and it's a facilitator who'd put together. It was kind of a trial workshop, and he'd asked me for help. So I'd brought in about half the people, maybe a little bit more, into it on a sort of free trial. It was like, okay, so I've helped him put the thing together, and then when I'm doing my process, everyone has to say their bit about your, what they perceive as your blocks. Three criticisms. But the facilitator is supposed to be neutral, as I understood it anyway. It's the first time I did it. But then he climbed in. He said, he said something. And it was like directly about A Course. He said, oh, well, there's these ridiculous beliefs. He obviously didn't believe in A Course in Miracles. So he kind of, he went for like the point where I guess I was most vulnerable. And I really felt this anger arising. It was just like, it really was arising. It's like this whoosh. And, I'm sitting in this hot seat and there's like 20 people there and about half of them knew me. And, I'd been teaching forgiveness for years. So it was a real test. And this anger arises, and then was like, I was so tempted to get up and like go, right, let's have it on then, dude. That was what the anger wanted me to do. But it's like, okay, the other voice, Holy Spirit, was just like, just let it go, Jono. Just let it go. And I could just feel it was a choice. And then it was like, okay, I just breathed out, and it was like that. It subsided, and like, so using a physical process like the breath can really help. It's like, just let that feeling go, drop into peace, feel the peace. And then it was like, I just said something like, well, so you say, and I laughed. But it was a real, because you can feel that it was literally a rising, a rising up of anger particularly, and then a choice to literally let it go. Just like, okay, I can choose that. That feeling doesn't have to control my thoughts and emotions here. So it was a test, which I just passed. I was tempted to go into the whole ego thing, but I didn't, fortunately. So, experientially, that's what it feels like. Okay, it's arising, but you have a choice, even in that moment, where it seems to be, they say the red mist. It seems like that's coming up and it's consuming your mind. But with enough mind training, you can get to the point where even in that there's still this other awareness. You can say, no, but you still have a choice here. You don't lose it in the red mist. You can still let it go. And make a choice. And that this is what Course in Miracles is training us to do in the extreme, when the ego is really tempting you, and there's a very strong emotion like anger arising. You can still make the right choice. And we're training ourselves to have that awareness, almost like spiritual warriors. Like if you look at what they do with combat training, they give them really hard training so that when they get into combat, a soldier is ready, is ready for like really an intense, difficult situation, because that's what combat is. So that's why they go hard on them in training. So we're training so that when you're in that so-called combat situation with the ego and it's arising very strongly, you're ready, and you can face it and be up to the challenge of letting it go. So you train when day in, day out, when you're not angry, you're not upset, so that there's that awareness that's there when the ego does arise strongly, that's triggered, that you have that awareness as very strongly in your mind to help you to let it go. Okay, so that leads us into the lesson, I think. Any questions, comments on this little passage?
No, it's really interesting listening to you give real life experiences. So
I think so, yeah. So it's where the rubber meets the road. It's like, okay, we're not talking theory here. It's the practice of it in your practical life experience. And if you share an experience, it might help others. You go, oh, okay, yeah, I know that feeling. The anger literally rising up. It felt like a rising up into my chest. It was like such an impulse to literally like get up and go into action mode, but it would have been motivated by anger, and I would have made a complete fool of myself, because everyone would have gone, so he's teaching letting go and then clearly not letting go, clearly quite triggered by this, and now having a full-on full on fight with the facilitator, which would have been, he wouldn't have backed down. It was his retreat, so it would have been a full on conflict if I'd gone there, and I probably would have ended up walking out and gone, well, stuff this, Once I'd gone there, I would have got into a position where I couldn't back down either. So it would have just meant the end of the retreat, which would have been a great shame, because actually a lot of these processes that I now do came from that retreat. That was huge learning for me. So it was actually really, really valuable to go through that, the whole experience, and see how it was done. It would have sabotaged the whole process if I'd worked out. So that letting go in that moment, has proved to be hugely valuable to me and to other people, because I wouldn't have got the learning that I would have that I did get, because I stayed the whole retreat. So just reflecting on it, you're going, wow, actually, from one moment of letting go, there's ongoing benefits years later. That's how it works.
Perhaps he was guided to do it, to give you that lesson to pass on.
Well, yeah, I did say it because they asked for feedback after, and I said, well, what was that about then, And he didn't really, he just said, well, it was what it was. I think his own ego got involved, because you really, you shouldn't, as a facilitator, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be neutral. I've learned not to get involved in these processes. I'm just a facilitator. It's not personal, so you don't make personal comments or anything. But I think there was an ego in him arising, and he was like, oh, now I've got the opportunity to climb in and attack. I will, because it's within the process, so I'll get away with it. I couldn't do it one-on-one, because it would be, hang on, I've helped you. But so that was one level of awareness that I had. And then I was like, no, but actually, even if that was the case in his own mind, it happened for me. It was a lesson. It was a great test for me to test, okay, well, just how aware are you? Because I got a test that others didn't get. Okay, I'm being tested to the level of my capacity just to handle it. I nearly went into the ego, because it was touch and go. But I was able to, it was a good test, because I was able to let it go. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm actually quite glad that test happened, because I passed the test. And I was like, okay, remember that lesson, which I always have. Don't just in a moment of when you're really tempted to anger, you can choose to let it go. Okay, then. So, a peace of God leads us to the lesson. Do you want to read the core idea?
The peace of God is shining in me now. The peace of perfect love is shining in me now.
And I think in this case, the second one is definitely got a different energy, isn't it? Peace of God or perfect love. Peace of perfect love just has a lovely kind of resonance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, and you'll be happy to know I've actually done the translation. So if you want to read paragraph 1 in the original, and then read it in the alternative.
I wait for heaven. Those who seek the light are merely covering their eyes. The light is in them now. Enlightenment is but a recognition, not a change at all. Light is not of the world, yet you who bear the light in you are alien here as well. Light is not of the world, yet you who bear the light in you are alien here as well. Oh, I'll get there in a minute. Then the light came with you from your native home and stayed with you because it is your own. It is the only thing you bring with you from him who is your source. It shines in you because it lights your home and leads you back to where it came from, and you are at home.
Okay, so let's translate it and unpack it as we go.
So why wait for the state of pure formless awareness?
Which is heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, why wait? It's here now. Those who seek the true awareness are merely covering their eyes. Yeah, it's already here. We just can't perceive it. The true awareness is in them now. Yeah. Well, the true awareness is in us now, isn't it? True awareness.
We could make it us if you want. Is that a bit more direct?
Yeah, it feels like it's putting it out there somewhere. They.
Yeah, in them now. True awareness is in us now. It's more, or even you. Can change it to you if you want.
Awareness is in you now. True awareness is in us now. Yeah, either. Yeah.
Is in you now. Yeah, so that's good because then it's like two levels of translation. I've done the initial, and then we go through it again. It's like just tweak it. Awareness is in you now. I think that's much more powerful. Is in them now. It's much more personal.
Okay. Enlightenment is only a recognition, not a change at all. Yeah, it's a change of perception, isn't it? Well, it says not a change at all. I've just said it's a change of perception. I suppose the thing is, it's always there. So it's a change in that sense, is it?
Well, it's interesting because it feels like a change. You see, when you in the ego, you've believed in what's false, then you must change your mind in order to recognize. Recognize means rethink. Actually, cognition means think. To rethink the truth. So it feels like a change, transformation we call it. Feels like a change of mind. Because you have to change your mind from what's false and return your mind to what's always been true. Because we changed and we denied the truth and we changed going the one way, we changed our thought system to the ego, we have to make the change back. But actually, we're just recognizing what was already there. It's always been there. That state of awareness has always been there. Just we denied it. We thought we changed our minds, and now we have to change our minds back. So it feels like change to us from our perspective of a separated self. But actually, it's really just a recognition, a remembering of what's always been there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a paradox. You're changing but it's changeless. You're only changing from what's not true.
Yeah. Yeah, you're changing from the illusion to the truth.
Yeah. So it's not really a change in truth, because in truth, no change ever really happened. In truth, you never really could believe in the ego. The ego never really happened. So that was not a real change. So in truth, you've always been who you are, as the one extension of love. So actually, although you seem to be transforming and changing your mind back, you're actually just recognizing what's always been there. Yeah. Which is useful to play with these ideas. Go, okay, well, it's not really, because I never really changed my mind. I never really believed in the ego, and none of this really happened. Therefore, it's not really a change. I'm just recognizing what's always been the case. And so I'm not, I was never creator. That's why we changed the word creating, creator and creating. I was never created. I've always been. There's never a time where I didn't exist. I've always been this one self. It's always been. It's eternal. And now I'm just recognizing what's always been. So returning of my mind to the truth of what I've always been. And that's why it says enlightenment or awakening, we could substitute. But I like it. He doesn't use enlightenment very often, so I think let's leave it, because it is an alternative term for salvation. So enlightenment, awakening, salvation all means the same thing. It's only a recognition, not a change at all. So you just recognize, you just remember, see again what is already there. Not really a change at all.
Okay. True awareness is not of the world, yet you who have true awareness in you are alien here as well. So that threw me a bit. The alien bit threw me.
So if you have this true awareness, which is a translation of light. True awareness or whole awareness is not of the world. And so if you have this true awareness in you, you are alien here as well. So you have true awareness in you, or alien here. Maybe we can translate that. Or alien here, or not at home here. That's what he means. Or not at home.
You need as well? Could that not come
I don't
in?
think so. No, I think we can take that out. True awareness is not of the world.
Yeah,
Not
you.
of the world, yet you have true awareness in you, or not at home here.
Yeah, that makes better sense.
Maybe instead of yet, and. It's not really a yet. True awareness is not of the world, and you have true awareness in you, or not at home here.
What sometimes confuses me is, are we talking to the ego or the true self? Like when it's written, are they talking to us as though we are the ego? Because half the time it feels like that, doesn't it? It's like, well, actually, I thought I was slipping into the other viewpoint. So when you say you, it's like confuses my brain.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because he's kind of addressing the Ken Wapnick, who's one of the best teachers of the course in my view ever. He was there from the start, and he translated this with Helen. He was not translated, edited this with Helen. So he was like right at the start, and then he was sort of the first course teacher as such. He then took it out and started the Foundation for Inner Peace and went on the road and talked about the course. That was his life's work. And he talks about the concept of the decision maker. So in between the Holy Spirit and the ego, when Yeshua addresses you, look at this. He's talking about the decision maker that can choose between the two. But asking you to choose the spirit. Like, yes, you could choose the ego, giving you the options, highlighting the two thought systems, saying yes, but the true you, which is the true self, there's an awareness in that you that can now make the correct choice that's going to take you into true awareness. So he's addressing that decision maker in your mind most of the time. Sometimes he says, well, you, and then he goes into a whole ego story about, what the you of the ego. So then he's saying, well, this is you who you believe you are, just as the ego. So it depends on the context. It's you have to have a little bit of discernment. But usually he's, he very quickly brings it back to the decision maker. Saying, look, you have a choice here. Because he never leaves you in the ego darkness for very long. You might have a paragraph of like, those stick paragraphs where it's like really on the ego is like blood and drama and all of this. But then he never leaves you there for very long. In the next paragraph, he says, okay, but you have a choice. And then he brings in the Holy Spirit. So he brings you back to the decision maker very quickly and says, yeah, look, that's an option. So look at it. But there's an awareness in you that can look at that objectively and recognize the insanity of that and recognize that's not what you want. So come back to the decision maker and make another choice with me. Let it go and now choose the true self, choose with the Holy Spirit, and that's now the decision maker, the right-minded decision maker will only choose the Spirit, which eventually collapses the idea of decision entirely. Because if you keep making only the one choice, then eventually the ego is completely denied and there is no decision to make. You realize I'm one self and there's no choice. That's kind of where it's leading us, out of the split mind, out of having to make decisions, to the oneness. So it's another way of looking at it, from a decision point of view. You have a split mind, you seem to have two thought systems, but you're going to go into the decision maker that's aware of both, which is what he's continuously asking us to do through these lessons in the text, and then you're going to make the right choice. because once you're aware of the options correctly, you perceive them correctly, there's only really one choice to make. It's insanity versus sanity. Well, is that really a choice? And so if you keep doing that, then you collapse the ego eventually. There's no choice to make. And so the end of your life, if you really work this course, there's no choice to make anymore. The decision maker's gone, and you are the one self that just knows the truth, doesn't have to now decide, just knows the truth. That's the enlightened state, where you've recognized who you really are, you've gone beyond decision, and you merely are the truth. And that is possible even in this world. Enlightened beings like Yeshua and the Buddha, and more recently people like Ramana, and they've attained that state where it's like they just are that, and there is no split mind anymore. So they don't have to make decisions anymore. They are that presence, and that presence is directing them, their thoughts and their words and their actions, kind of automatically. That's the ultimate flow state, where you don't have to make a decision, you don't have to let go anymore. It just happens through you. You are being done through by the Spirit 24/7, and there is no other voice. So that state that's the full state of enlightenment, full enlightenment or awakening, or in Course terminology, you are the Christ. You become the Christ mind, identified fully with the Christ mind. And that's why Yeshua was called the Christ, or the Buddha was called the Buddha, because they are rooted in that state and they never leave it. So that's where we're going with this, to get into the state where we just are that. There's no longer decisions to make, and that presence just does us. We are the done through. Then we become the Christ in the world. That is enormously powerful, because there's no split in our minds remaining. There's just one mind, one self, one idea behind everything we do. And so there's the power, you see, because there's no split. If you think of the ego as always splitting your mind, and now you vacillate between decisions, well, there's no power in that. It's like, well, I could do this, or I could do that, and they seem to be opposite, and I'm confused, and I don't know which one where to go. So another analogy could be like a journey. You're on a journey, you reach a crossroads, two roads going in different directions, which is actually leading into our text, the branching of the road. There's a split in the road, and you must choose which way you're going to go. Now, it's not going to be very effective if you make a choice one moment. You go, okay, well, I'll go down that road, towards it's seemingly a more difficult path. That'll probably be the Holy Spirit's path. It's not leading to an obviously nice destination. The other one is like a wide road. It leads to a town, and there's lots of food and drink, and a festival going on, and lots of fun to be had. That would be the ego's choice. So if you make a choice to go the one way, and you take a couple of steps down that road, and then you change your mind and you turn around and you go the other way, and then you take a few steps down that road and turn around, you're going nowhere. There's no power. You're just going around in circles on the same spot. So that's kind of what we're doing when we don't consistently choose for the Spirit. We're not really going anywhere spiritually. We're just at the crossroads always, and these two thought systems continuously, we vacillate between them, and there's no power in that. We're not going in one clear direction. We're just very confused, and so spiritually we're not really moving forward at all. So power comes when you choose, and if you choose just the ego, then there's an egoic power that comes from that as well. Ultimately, that's a destructive power. So as an example of someone who chose that about as completely as you can in this life, take a Hitler as an example. So he read, right, I'm going into this power. I'm gonna believe in the ego, and it's gonna give me my power and my guidance. And as a result, he did some pretty extraordinary things. Became leader of a country, started a world war. It's like there was power there, but ultimately a totally destructive power. Because in the end, his whole mad dream collapsed, and everyone, the entire world was hunting him, and he had the only option was to take his own life, because he was the most wanted man on the planet. So ultimately a very destructive dream, but it gave him an illusion of power for a while until until the ego's destructiveness could play out, and it turned on him. You see, well, you go and attack the world, and guess what? The world's going to come and attack you, and that's exactly what he experienced. So good lesson. You look at a Hitler and you go, wow, what a lesson in that's an option. Go into the ego's power and look at where it led. Is that really a path I want to follow? No. Look at a Yeshua or Buddha who did the opposite. They went completely into the spirit, and look at how their lives turned out. And chalk and cheese, totally different. So which model do I want to follow here? And let me just commit to one or the other. And it's quite useful to have that dichotomy. Like if I choose the ego, I'm Hitler, and if I choose the spirit, I'm Yeshua. Okay, well, which do I want to be here? I have a choice as to who I want to be and what destiny I want to invite to unfold for me. And so these role models, extreme role models, are useful learning for us. Okay, so any thoughts on the first paragraph? You muted, Sally.
Just smiling about if to choose Hitler or Jesus.
Wait, what did you say?
The choice, trying to choose if to be Hitler or Jesus is the ultimate choice. Smile.
Yeah, but it's a useful, through these extremes, the choice becomes very clear. Okay, so then in this moment, I'm Hitler or Jesus. Okay, which do I want to be? Is that really a choice? Is that really even an option I should consider? You see? So framing it in such, direct terms, people would say, well, that's too black and white. But I don't think it is, because it's both our thought systems, and those are role models of representing each thought system to the extreme of the thought system. So they're very useful. So if you think of it in that way, you go, well, okay, then it becomes my decision should be really, really clear. There's no kind of fudging it, no ambiguity, because the ego will try and convince you that it's okay. Oh, no, that's okay. Just let that belief slide. That's all right. And that's all right. But actually, it's leading you down the garden path. It's leading you into a thought system of chaos and destruction. And I'm sure Hitler didn't start totally evil. He probably had some good intentions somewhere in there. But, one step at a time, went down the path, kept listening to the ego, and eventually it leads him to being a complete megalomaniac and wanting to conquer the world and create chaos and destruction on a mass scale. It probably didn't start that way when he was, just starting down the path. So it's worth, these are useful role models. To go, okay, well, that's the choice I face every moment. If I've got a choice, that's a choice between Hitler and Jesus. So which is going to be my guide? And if that helps you make the right decision, then it's a useful, conception. Okay. So do you want to give a little summary of paragraph 1?
Didn't quite finish it. We got up to number 6.
Okay.
The true awareness came with you from your native home and stayed with you because it is your own. Yep. Okay. We came in as true awareness, and we always are true awareness. It is the only thing you bring with you from your source. Yeah. It shines in you because it illuminates your home and leads you back to where it came from, and you are at home. It leads you back to where it came from, and you are at home.
Yeah, I think we'll make that a capital. True awareness. Maybe we should capital A.
Yeah.
True awareness is in you now.
You change that one, then you've got to change the next one as well, and the next one. There's one at 5 and there's one at 6.
Yeah, there is. True awareness. Merely covering their eyes. What do you think?
don't know. No, probably not, because we're talking. I suppose it could be. Awareness to me is just a state, rather than it being the truth.
True awareness. Yeah. See, I mean, this is where it gets. You kind of in that decision maker now has an awareness of the truth, but maybe there's still the other awareness going on. So I know in the past with light, I haven't translated it. I haven't made it a capital. I haven't made it a capital. It's just a small a. So let's stay consistent. But again, it's like what should be capitalized and what shouldn't be. Because it comes down to, well, what's the spirit and what's the ego. So the capitalized implies that's it. That's the ultimate truth. And when it's small, it's like there's still maybe a decision maker concept going on.
But most of us reading this are working our way towards the truth. We haven't got it clearly in mind yet. So we are still at the awareness stage with a small a, aren't we?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll leave it as small a. It also means that to be consistent, you then got to go and change.
Change everything, haven't you? Yeah.
No. But it's tricky. The capitalization I've always found tricky, because what do you capitalize and what don't you? It leads you back to where it came from. Well, it's really referring to the source. So the source is capitalized, but then the awareness isn't. But it's the same thing. Anyway, it's why words, in the end, words are just pointers. The word isn't the truth. The word's just a pointer. So the words are imperfect. As you're dealing with things like capitalization and small letters and which words to use, in the end, they point to an experience that's beyond words. So we won't get too caught up in the grammar and so on. Capitalization grammar.
Basically, it's saying we are true awareness. We've come in as true awareness. We always will be, and that's your home.
Yeah, very simple message, and it's not really a change. I mean, that's quite key. You think you're changing your mind. On the level of this world, we think this is a massive change, but actually we're not really changing at all. We're just returning our mind to what it always has been and always will be. So it's a recognition. So I think that kind of reduces the fear. Okay, this is actually who I am. It's always been who I am. I've just believed in something false. So if I'm letting go of what's false, is that really a change? Or am I just recognizing what's always been true? And that's subtle, but I think it makes quite a big difference.
People keep saying to me, "You've changed so much, Sally," and I just like stay in my light and just think, yeah, but I'm coming home. I'm becoming more me. They see it as every time they see me, I look different or I seem different. But yeah, it's just gradual steps towards home, isn't it?
Because that character that they identify as you from your past self was not really you. They thought it was you because they're perceiving it from the level of form, the ego's perspective. Oh, that's what Sally is. Personality, identity. This is what characterizes that personality, and this is the kind of behavior. And so that's the package of Sally that they perceive. And now that's changing. They go, oh, you've changed so much. But really, all you're doing is letting go of what was not true and becoming more of what was true and has always been there. And then they perceive it as a change. And then sometimes, people can perceive this as, it's unwelcome. Oh no, you changing, and that I don't want you to change. I liked how you were before because their ego and your ego were in a relationship, and now so that disrupts that relationship because you changing. It means like, well, how do I relate to this new person who's not the same? Well, that creates some challenge for me. So the ego tries to maintain the status quo. So no, just stay as you are. Don't change and don't transform. And so there's a big resistance to often from people close to you to that change. Oh no, I liked you a bit better before how you were. Really? Well, I know I wasn't really that happy. It might have been an illusion of this is because I put on a nice face for the world, but I know inside me that I wasn't really that happy. I had this unhappiness or dissatisfaction or all these issues, and you weren't experiencing that. So you have to honor, what's your internal experience. And if people don't like it, then sometimes they just fade away from your life because they can't go with you on the journey. There's not a resonance. Then if they're not awakening, I mean, what do you have to speak about, really? If someone is, I mean, it's interesting. What do you talk about? Talk about the weather? Talk about just, what's happening in the world, politics, the latest COVID crisis, Brexit, sport? What do you talk about? If you're not awakening, it's like it's a different level of conversation, isn't it? And it's just going to bore you. You're going to be like, why are we talking about such arbitrary, pointless stuff? It doesn't. There's no depth to this. So you do can struggle to kind of relate to people. I mean, I guess you've always got the option of, no matter what conversation is there, just being in your presence and just shining that and blessing them. But what are you going to say? What are you going to say? What do you say? Oh, it's interesting. Ramana, this is an enlightened sage in India. They were like, no, you need to teach. You go like, what am I going to teach? I've got nothing to teach. The silence is the teacher. Just sit in silence with me, and that'll teach you more than I can say in thousands of words. So you do get to the point where there's nothing really to say. Just silent presence is there, and people who still in the world and want to talk about the weather or talk about their dramas, or will find that challenging because it's just this deep silent presence. Those who want to awaken will find that deeply healing. So I guess then you start to spend time and energy with people who are awakening more than people who want to remain asleep. It's just a natural inclination, and you get guided. The Spirit will guide you to you get guided to be with who you need to be with. It says, I'll direct, I'll bring the people to you who need to meet you. But it's a change, in quite a profound change in your life that happens with us when you do this work.
Yeah, what's coming into my mind is how when I was married, we used to go out in big groups. There'd be like 25 of us going out for dinner or something, and everyone gets dressed up to go out, and it was just like so boring, not even boring. It was just so ridiculous. And then the opposite of that is a friend I was just contacting today, and she's coming to visit in a couple of weeks, and we both know we can just sit in silence together. But just being together, we don't have to do anything. And it's like, how liberating is that? Somebody comes around for the day and we don't have to do anything, say anything. It's just like, that's a whole different communication, isn't it?
Yeah, and the two won't really marry up. If someone wants to do the restaurant, glamour thing, they're going to go, what? Come over and you just sit in silence with me? No, like I want some activity, entertain me, host me, let's do something interesting. At least let's have some interesting conversation. The idea of just sitting and being would be like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I want activity. So what you want out of life changes. And those previous activities that at the time might have excited you or given you some kind of pleasure. Now you go, really? Like, what was that all about? Everyone dressing up, nice pretty face. Oh, I look good. I look, what people think of my hair. I mean, women are funny, aren't they? Like, all of this, and it's just body identification, and like, how will people perceive me? And then I go out and I put on an image. It's like, so I've dressed up and I've put makeup on. I mean, makeup, what is that? It's crazy. I'm making myself up to look to create an image for the world. But it's such a program that society says, oh no, this is how it is. This is what you should be doing. And most people just buy the program, but as you go more on the spiritual path, you go like, why? Why would I want to do that? Doesn't make any sense. Make myself up into an image of myself that I'm not really, and show that image to people. Is that really a good way to spend an evening? Not really. And feel, often quite disconnected and lost. So this poem reminds me of this poem, The Invitation. Are you familiar with The Invitation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this invitation was written after exactly an evening like that. The lady whose Native American name is Araya Mountain Dreamer had an evening out where it was just like a party and superficial conversation. And she came back and she wrote this in the early hours of the morning after that experience.
I haven't read it for a long time. I'm sure I've read it before. Can I read it again?
Do you want to? Yeah.
It
So
doesn't.
shall I expand it a bit?
It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you are touched by the center of your own sorrow, if you've been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. Yeah, wow. It's really good, isn't it?
Mm.
I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wilderness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another, to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul, and if you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy.
That's an interesting one.
Ooh,
Faithless and therefore
faithless.
trustworthy. So what do you think she means by that?
You can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I suppose putting your faith in the illusion, putting your faith in things that don't exist.
Yeah. So you can be faithless to the illusion and therefore trustworthy of the truth. So a clear, choice. So, well, you can't be faithful to two masters. You must choose. And again, this came out of that disillusionment of that experience she'd had at the party, where everyone was just, doing the posturing. They're all made up, and they go, oh, well, I've done this and I've done this, and everyone's projecting the false self-image of themselves. And she writes this in response to that to say, I want something more authentic. I want to experience my soul. And because it was 1994 and the internet had just started, this went viral on email. It was like one of the first emails sent out. People are like, oh wow, I got an email. Oh wow, that's amazing. And they read the whole thing and they're like, I can forward on. Great, forward on. So it went viral, and that kind of created a career for her, because she then started writing books and teaching, and just from a moment where she just, it was a cry to say, I don't want this ego world. It's too shallow and superficial. And the poem came from that experience. Cry for something more authentic.
Yeah, I felt like that for decades. I don't want to know what you do, where you live, where you've come from in the ego world. It's just boring.
It doesn't really matter, I want to know, so like, don't tell me all this superficial stuff about you. I want to know this from you, have a conversation on this level. And if you can have people in your life who you can have a conversation on this level with, then these are relationships that are very nurturing and very rich and very valuable.
Yeah, very good.
You want to finish it?
I want to know if you can see beauty, even when it's not pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you make. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. That's the key one there. Can you be with yourself in the silence?
Yeah. So yeah, a really good poem and an invitation. You'll stand in the center of the fire with me. So she means there the fire of the spirit of transformation. Like, will you stand there with me and not shrink back, not go, oh, I'm scared. I'm scared of this eternal flame, it's been called, of the spirit. Rather stand in it and let it burn the impurities away. Which, at the beginning of a transformational course, that's the invitation. Will you stand with me in that fire and not shrink back and not run away? Ultimately, you can be alone with yourself and like the company you keep in the empty moments.
Yeah, it's very appropriate to this course.
Yeah. It is. Okay, so where are we? Back to here. Number 2. So the light cannot be lost.
The light cannot the light cannot be lost.
Just I think read it.
This true awareness cannot be lost. Why wait to find it in the future or believe it has been lost already or was never there? It can so easily be looked upon that arguments which prove it is not there become ridiculous. Who can deny the presence of what he beholds in it? It is not difficult to look within. There all vision starts. Every perception, be it of dreams or from a truer source, is only the shadow of what is perceived through outward vision. Their perception starts and there it ends. It has no source except this.
Yeah. Okay, any thoughts on that?
Well, it's very comforting that you can't lose it. Yeah, there's no waiting. It's here now.
Arguments which prove it is not there become ridiculous. It's like, well, how can you say it's not there when I feel it in myself? It's clearly a ridiculous argument. You can deny the presence of what he beholds in him and what he maybe experiences.
Yeah, what he experiences in him. And it says it's not difficult to look within, but actually, sometimes it is.
Yeah. There all vision starts. Yeah.
There's a resistance to looking within, isn't it? The ego just doesn't want you to see.
Yeah, because if you look within, then you start seeing it. And so its best defense is to convince you that you're not a mind, but you're a body. See how it works? If I'm a body and I focus on the level of form, on the body identity, I'm not even aware I have a mind, then how can I change my mind if I'm not even aware I have a mind? So the ego is trying to make us mindless, to deny the power of our true mind. So we never come to that awareness and we can never make another choice and undo it. which is why if you look at how it works, we're talking about those dinner parties and so on. It's all about the level of form. So, okay, form, appearance, I'm a body. How does my body look? How are people going to relate to my body? What am I going to say? And so on. And none of this has got anything to do with your true mind. Your mind has been hijacked into a body identity. Whereas if you do start to look within, you go, okay, so what am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I feeling right now in the present moment? You start to have an awareness that there's something there. There's a presence, clearly. I can have an experience of an inward experience. Okay, so what is that then? Well, there must be some foundational awareness in my mind then. You would think this is completely obvious, but if your mind is entrained into looking outside of you all the time, then it's actually not obvious at all, and it requires a mindfulness to become mindful of what's in your mind approach. That's why it's called mindfulness. To start becoming aware that, okay, there's something going on in my mind. I'm not just a body. I'm not just reacting on the level of form. I'm going deeper into my mind. I'm becoming aware of this presence. And there perception starts, and there it ends. It comes from the inward vision. It comes from who we really are, who we believe we are. So when we look within and we see the ego's beliefs that are covering over our true self and we let them go, then our perception on the level of form must change. So if you remember the instrument for peace diagram, it's a ripple. It ripples up from the base, from the perception all the way down to core beliefs, and then it goes all the way back up. So perception leads to an emotion that underpins it, and there's thoughts and belief. And at the core of it is, what do I want? Do I want to be a separate self, or do I want to be one self? So this going within takes you down through these levels. So you're going within. You have to face these emotions, thoughts, and beliefs of the ego. You have to see them, and then you go through them to the desire or prayer of the heart. So that's going within, looking within at the light, which is there. And then that light says, well, this belief, thought, emotion, and the perception that is produced is not true. And so the miracle happens when you go within, change your mind at the core level, and then that ripples all the way back up through belief, thought, emotion, and perception to change your perception. So that's what he means by, go back to this, their perception starts in the inner core. Every perception on the external, be it of dreams or from a truer source, is only the shadow of what is perceived through inward vision. So every perception on the external, looking outwards, is the shadow of what's perceived through inward vision, what you're going to see when you go within, what's the beliefs in your subconscious mind. Their perception starts and there it ends, here in the core. And that's where the miracle takes place. So that diagram, which was given by Yeshua to David Hoffmeister, illustrates quite well what he's saying about perception and how this process works of changing your perception. Okay?
Yep, cool.
Any thoughts on number 2?
No, I think you said it all.
Okay. Moving swiftly on then to number 3.
The peace of perfect love is shining in you now. From your heart extends around the world. It pauses to caress each living thing and leaves a blessing with it that remains forever and forever. What it gives must be eternal. It removes all thoughts of the ephemeral, how do you say that?
Ephemeral
And valueless.
Which just means, ephemeral means temporary. So fancy word for the temporary, the changeable.
Right. It brings renewal to all tired hearts and illuminates all vision as it passes by. All of its gifts are given everyone, and everyone unites in giving thanks to you who give and you who have received. Okay, the peace of perfect love is shining in you now. Yeah. From your heart extends around the world, pauses to caress each living thing, and leaves a blessing with it that remains forever and ever.
I think we should change that. Forever and ever. I was actually listening to Eckhart Tolle yesterday. He was saying, well, forever and ever doesn't mean it's gonna last forever in time. There's a blessing with it that remains eternally. Because eternally means no time. Timelessly. It remains eternally or timelessly. Rather than forever and ever, I think. Because that sort of gives the impression that it's gonna last forever in time. Timelessly, timelessly, there we go. It remains timelessly. What it gives must be eternal, which means no time. So it's like another dimension. You remove yourself from the span of linear time and go into the eternal, which always is and always was, always has been true. So it removes all thoughts of the ephemeral and valueless. So in other words, whatever is in time, whatever is temporary, ephemeral, is related to time. This is all removed or let go of.
Yeah. And it brings renewal to all tired hearts. And that's what happens, doesn't it? When you tune into that timelessness, you recharge yourself. Yeah,
Like full vision as it passes by. Its gifts are given everyone, and everyone unites in giving thanks to you who give and you who have received. So it's the timeless well of eternal life that brings this life-giving force back into your mind and blesses you and everyone with the gifts. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just letting it shine through, isn't it? Allowing it to bless the world, I suppose, in that.
Allowing it to come through you and bless the world.
Yeah.
But you must experience it first in you. Peace of God is shining in me now. It must be in me first in order to shine out from me. So the invitation is go within, connect with it, and then let that radiate out through your thoughts, words, and actions to the world. Okay, happy with that one?
Yeah.
Number 4.
Shining in your mind reminds the world of what it has forgotten, and the world restores the memory to you as well. From you, awakening radiates with gifts beyond all measure, given and returned. To you, the giver of the gift, does formless awareness of perfect love itself give thanks, and in its blessing does the true awareness in you shine brighter, adding to the gifts you have offered to the world.
Okay, you got a little something like that.
As you shine, it reminds everyone else of their true self. Even if they're not conscious of it, it's kind of a subconscious knowing, isn't it? It lights another person up when you shine.
Shining in your mind reminds the world of what it has forgotten. The world restores the memory to you as well. So you become the light of the world. People can see the light in you. You become the example of the awakened one, the Christ self, the Buddha is the awakened one who shows people light in themselves. I mean, it's blessing. It's true awareness, and you shine brighter, adding to the gifts you have to offer to the world. So the more we connect with this presence, the more we can share it and give it out. Which leads on from yesterday's lesson about giving and receiving. Bless the world because I bless myself. So as I accept the blessings, I can extend the blessings to others. And I realize that those blessings are not limited. There's no sense of a limitation, of lack, of sacrifice and loss in the blessings that come from pure formless awareness. They are infinite and eternal. They never end. There's no sense of lack anymore. So you transcend then the ego's story of lack and limitation, and you just shine this infinitely abundant presence out in your thoughts, words, and actions. And if you do that consistently, people will notice, and they will go, "Oh, Sally, you've changed. Yeah, you've awakened." Say next time they say that, no, you say, "I'm waking up." That's what's happening.
That would confuse them totally, wouldn't it?
Waking up actually to who I really am. Well, it might intrigue them. I go, okay, well, I mean, they know what you do, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, most people are a bit creeped out by what I do. So they kind of know, but don't want to know. Some, obviously loads totally get me, but those that are like the old family members and things, they're a bit like cautious about what I do. So they don't want to ask too much in case they might get involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So in your presence of someone who's awakening, then it spreads. That's the nature of it. It spreads, and you'll find ego resistance. Yesterday I made a call to someone follow up to the retreat, and I heard a partner, it must have been a partner in the background, going, "Oh, buddy, get lost. We don't want any of this mindfulness shite." And you just see like huge resistance to the truth. Why? I'm just making a call, and it's like massive. So he obviously feels threatened by her attempts to try and become a bit more mindful. So the ego will resist and defend, because it's the thin edge of the wedge. If you come in with more of this awareness, it's going to undo the ego, and it knows that. So that's why someone's really in the ego, they will block it at every turn, because the ego knows this is the beginning of the end. So don't even take one step down that road. Just have a fortress of seemingly impenetrable denial. It's just like, no, computer says no, computer says no. I'm just not going to accept anything else other than my fixed perception of the world as it is. Okay, so moving swiftly on to number 5.
The peace of perfect love can never be contained. Who recognizes it within himself must give it, and the means for giving it are in his understanding. He lets go because he recognized the truth within him. The peace of pure formless awareness, perfect love is shining in you now and all living things. In quietness, it is acknowledged universally. For what your inward vision looks upon is your perception of the universe. So you're looking in to see the universe. That's interesting.
Yeah, what he's talking about, universe, we've had this before. It's not the physical universe.
No.
The maybe we should add in of the true universe.
It's as though the universe inside of us is the universe out there, as it's a reflection. I like that. That's a really nice feeling that we're looking inside to our universe.
Yeah, the universe of truth is within our own mind. And then what we see externally is just a shadow of that, a reflection of that. So this is like a shadow world. Plato, they in the ancient Greeks, him and Socrates and their followers, they had this conception of the world as a shadow of ideas. So they called it the beautiful, the good, and the true. And they said the beautiful and the good and the true exist as an ideal in the mind, and then the world is like the shadow. It's a reflection of that. So it's not the ultimate reality, it's a reflection of what's in the mind. And then that cave analogy is like, well, the world is just the shadows. It's not the truth, just the puppets before the light. So they were starting to understand this idea that the truth lies within, in your own mind, and then the world is the reflection of it. Your perceptions are just the shadow of the beliefs that you hold about the world, about yourself primarily. Who am I? What do I believe? And now that the world becomes the shadow reflection. So we live in a shadow world. The figures and whatever's happening in the dream is not the reality. The true reality is in our minds, in the inner world of our beliefs. And those beliefs then create the external projection. And as you start to see that by doing this work, that's the miracle of awakening. You go, oh, wow, actually my mind is enormously powerful. My mind creates my reality. Okay, well, what reality do I want? And instead of trying to use your mind to create a better reality on the level of form, which is the law of attraction type stuff, you go, no, actually, I want to transcend the level of form entirely. I don't want to be on the level of form anymore, because the level of form implies shift and change and pain and suffering and sickness and death. That's been going on the level of form forever and will continue to go on. So I actually, the only purpose that I give myself is to transcend the level of form. So that's the enlightened, that's the desire to awaken or to become enlightened, rather than just try and make your dream a little bit better. Paradoxically, when you do that, your dream will become better. By letting go, often on the level of form, very helpful things can happen. Circumstances, people, places, events sort of rearrange themselves, and you can enter into this flow state. But the point is, it's just temporary. You're not doing it because you want to fix the dream. You're doing it because you want to escape from the dream, and that's a very important distinction that really distinguishes this course from many other spiritual paths. So there's many others are saying, well, we'll make your life in the world better, and this is why you should follow this. This is saying, no, you want to escape the world, and then along the journey, you've got a journey to do that. Your life is going to become better because of this process of awakening that you're undertaking. But that happens as a secondary effect. It's not the primary reason for you doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of law of attraction. I used to do manifesting and focusing and reading. I got more of what I focus on. So if I focus on whatever it is that's come about in my life, and never thinking that there was another step after that, you could let go of all of it. I think the touch was one night when I had a little bit of a tussle with ego, and it was like, oh, I've got to let go of the good dream and the bad dream. Oh my goodness, got to let go of this house, the dog, everything. And that was like, oh, that was a bit of a wake up call. That one was. Yes, I did used to do a lot of law of attraction, but
well, it's where we start. I got into the course because I wanted to do miracles, law of attraction, manifestation. Oh, I'd like to do that. Okay, Course in Miracles. Maybe that's why he's titled it that, because it's like interesting. But then as you go deeper into it, you realize, whoa, this goes way beyond the law of attraction and attracting what I think I want and need on the level of form. He's saying, well, actually, you don't need it. All you need is the truth. So, that's a starting point. Very seldom do people come straight from like no spiritual understanding or practice to A Course in Miracles. There's these intermediate steps. Law of attraction is one of them, but just don't get stuck there, saying, okay, well, that's the ultimate truth. This leads us beyond that to ultimate law of attraction. Law of attraction will operate really well if you are really rooted in the true self, if you really have the love and the peace and the joy that are your true self, and you extend those always, you're rooted in that true self. Then look at the lives of Jesus and Buddha. I mean, they did some pretty amazing stuff. What was accomplished on the level of form is quite extraordinary, and that happened because Yeshua. Let's take his life as an example. He's so rooted in the presence of God, perfect love, and that's directing all of his thoughts, words, and actions. That creates such a powerful field around him that then radiates out. It changes the quantum field, and all kinds of stuff shows up when you change the field. So healings happen. He gets followers who believe in him. He's healing people. He's raising the dead, and it's all happening because he's so powerful. He's creating this change in the field, a field of unconditional loving awareness surrounds him, and he pulls people into that field, and then people start to believe in that, and so then the field grows. So there's this whole field of awareness around him. Wherever he goes, this field goes with him. And that's what did the miracles, the field. And he said, not my will. It's not me who's doing it. It's the Father. It's the source that's doing it. Translated in quantum terms, that would mean that the field is profoundly changed into a field of unconditional love. And if people connect with that field and they feel it, then that does the healing. And so instantaneous healings are possible in that field of awareness because it's so powerful, and it doesn't acknowledge any limitations.
Do they need to feel it? Do they actually need to feel it to have the transformation?
I think so. I mean, they would definitely, if someone had a healing and they were a leper and they suddenly had a spontaneous healing, or they were sick and like crippled, and then they can suddenly walk. Something profound would have happened in their awareness, almost certainly. They would have gone, whoa. I mean, imagine being a leper, your whole body's like decayed, and then suddenly, like in a minute, the amount of energy that must have gone through. So they would have had a profound experience.
I was just wondering if they could be in the field of energy and still resist it, so they don't allow it to transform them.
Oh yeah, they could. Yeah, it was recorded in the Bible. When he went to his hometown of Nazareth, he didn't do any miracles. Why? Because people didn't believe. They went, he's just little Yeshua, he was a snotty-nosed kid 20 years ago. I remember him running around the neighborhood. How can he be the Messiah? I don't believe. And so he didn't do any miracles because people blocked that field. But when he went elsewhere, people weren't they didn't have any previous reference of him growing up, or so he comes as this transcendent figure, and they go, they know about the prophecy of the Messiah, and everyone's saying he's the Messiah, and they believe. And so it creates the field that then allows these miracles to happen.
So either being attached to the old ego story or being attached to the truth.
Yeah. Are you open to, believing in the truth, or attached to the story of, he's just a person, and I knew him 20 years ago when he was a little kid. How could he be the Messiah? That's going to block that field from coming in and doing its work. So, and I think the reason he was so, those miracles happened was because people in those days did believe. If you tried that now, we've got the scientific materialist paradigm and the medical science and all this. People go, no, I can't believe that because my doctor says, or the medical industry says, X, Y, Z, and so then there's a block, and they block the field of miraculous awareness. In those days, they didn't have scientific materialist paradigm, hadn't really evolved, so they were before that, so they believed, like, he's the Messiah, I believe. They allow the field to come in and take them over, and the field does the work. That's why it says, not my will. I haven't done anything. It's the Father. It's all coming from the source that's doing this.
So that's why our families are less inclined to believe what we're into, because they see us as the person we were.
Yeah, exactly. Well, how can you be the awakened one? You were just just like me. You grew up. You had a childhood. We know you from that. We know your issues, your problems. We know. And so how can you be the awakened one? How can you be the Christ? And Jesus' own family didn't fully believe. He had to kind of split with them. It was recorded again in the Bible. He went on his own way, and they were kind of like, "Who are what the hell are you doing? You're just Yeshua. You're the eldest member of our family. You're a carpenter. Now you're doing this. Like, really?" And so his brothers and sisters didn't get him. It's like, what are you doing? And he just had to let that go and say, well, everyone's my family. I'm not bound by the family construct. I must go out and teach the truth, and do what I feel called to do. And you imagine his mother. Oh, she must have been like, what are you doing? Going to the temple, turning the tables up, causing havoc. Now they're going to crucify you. Oh my God, my little boy, what are you doing? But I think she intuited that there was something quite special about him, and that that was told to her, before his birth. The prophecy was like, yeah, this child is going to be different. So I think she sort of knew. But the rest of his family were like, who? Like, what are you? Who are you? They didn't really get it. So he had the same issues, dealing with the ego and other people's perceptions. So I think this is perfect timing, really. You've got 20 minutes, haven't you, Sally?
Yeah.
And I've got a meeting starting in 22 minutes. So shall we just go into meditation? Because you're saying sit quietly and close your eyes. So that's a great invitation to start a meditation. So just make yourself comfortable. So just sitting quietly, closing your eyes, feet shoulder width apart, cup your hands in your lap, back straight, and start off taking a nice deep breath in through the nose, breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Feel the energy rising up the spine. You can clench your sphincter muscle if you like. Feel this rising energy moving into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart. Breathe in again to your heart. And then raise the awareness up into the crown of your head. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. So scan your mind. Just looking at any thoughts and emotions going on, particularly anything that feels not peaceful. It's disturbing your peace in any way, shape, or form. And just remind yourself of today's lesson that the peace of God, the peace of perfect love, is shining in me now. So breathe this peace in. Imagine it's a light flowing into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. Breathe that peace in. Bring the light in. In the presence of the light, which is your true awareness, no dark thoughts that disturb your peace can remain. So just let them go with the help of your breath. Exhale. Blow them all away with the breeze of your breath. To the nothingness that they really are. As when they're like dark clouds leaving you. Clouds are insubstantial. They have no true beingness. So you just blow them away to the nothingness they really are. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. Just rest. Rest here in the peace and the stillness. a few moments. Just finding the peace within you, the light, the true awareness within you is sufficient. It alone has power to give the gift of sight to you. So exclude the outer world. Let your thoughts fly to the peace within. They know the way. So it's just an awareness of peace arising. No subject-object thoughts are necessary. Just sink into this awareness of peace. For honest thoughts, untainted by the dream of worldly things outside yourself, come the wholly aware messengers of perfect love itself. So they're untainted by the dream of worldly things. In other words, there's no subject-object perception. You're not thinking about anything outside of you. It's just going within and becoming aware of the awareness that you are, the pure, formless awareness of perfect love. That is your true self, your true nature, your true awareness. So these thoughts come the messengers of perfect love itself, messengers of pure, formless awareness, perfect love itself. So sink in to this experience deeply, fully, wholly, and completely. Sink into this peace that surpasses all intellectual understanding. Allow whatever thoughts you think to be thought by this deeper awareness, your true awareness. Thoughts that come from pure formless awareness of perfect love. These thoughts recognize their home, and they point surely to their source. The pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is the source, and its extension, which is you, your mind, are one. There is no difference between this pure formless awareness of perfect love and you. This is the mystical merging of the Father, the source, and the Son, its extension. So allow that merging to take place in your mind now. Perfect love's peace is shining on you. Feel that peace shining in you, shining on you. Be aware of any thoughts. True thoughts coming from the source must remain with you as well, for they were born within your mind. As your mind was born in perfect loves. So in truth, your mind wasn't ever born. Your mind is eternal. Recognizing that we come from that source is the beginning of the recognition that we always are and have been, always will be, the one self, the same awareness, changelessly, eternally. So these thoughts lead you back to peace, from where they come, from where they came, only to remind you how you must return. So these thoughts guide you back into the state of pure formless awareness of perfect love, where you will abide forever one day. Forever means timelessly, eternally, beyond time. So these thoughts heed your source's voice when you refuse to listen. They urge you gently to accept its message for what you are, instead of fantasies and shadows. And remind you that you are the co-creator of all things that love, because the same life essence in you is in them. Whereas the peace of pure formless awareness of perfect love is shining in you. Peace of perfect love is shining in you now. It must also shine on them. So breathe this peace in. This deep full breath. Feel the peaceful presence infusing every pore, every cell of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. In this peaceful presence. So practice coming nearer to this true awareness today. Any thoughts, any wandering thoughts, Yeshua calls them, just let them go, exhale them, blow them away with the breeze of your breath. Just cloud patterns scudding around. Let them go and gently bring them back to where they fall in line with all the thoughts we share. Pure formless awareness of perfect love. Do not let them stray, but let the true awareness within your mind direct them to come home, back into this state of pure formless awareness, which is your home. So you may have betrayed them, ordering that they depart from us. But now we call them back and wash them clean of strange desires and disordered wishes. So no desires in the world remain, no disordered wishes. Restore to them the pure formless awareness of their inheritance, which is perfect love. So all your thoughts come from pure formless awareness. They are in alignment with it, they do not contradict it. And so our minds are restored. With them. And we acknowledge that the peace of perfect love still shines in us. So breathe that peace in. Feel the shining in you now. Peace has a shining quality. Even if you don't visualize light, there's a sense of an expansive awareness. And then as you exhale, it shines from you to all living things that share this life with us. So let them all go, absolving all the world from what you thought it did to you. For it is you who make the world as you'd have it be. Now you choose that it be innocent, devoid of sin, and open to awakening. So give your awakening blessing to it as you say, the peace of perfect love is shining in me now. Let all things shine upon me in that peace, and let me bless them with the true awareness in me. So with this invitation, just go within, sinking inwards to the peace of perfect love. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about for the next couple of minutes. Just breathe, observe the breath, relax, sink into the peace of God, the peace of perfect love that's shining in you now. Just Experience this deeply for the next 2 minutes of silence. So just gently coming back from this deep peace into awareness of the body and the breath, senses and the world. On the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Pause at the top of the inhale, scan your mind, notice any thoughts, emotions, sensations going on, anything that's not peaceful. Just be aware of it, and once again, release it. Use this idea, the peace of God, the peace of perfect love is shining in me now. So I can let it all go. So exhale, just let it all go with the breath. Going, gone. Nothingness that it really is. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And just rest. Count of 2. Notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Noticing what you're feeling with your hands touching. As you breathe in again, maybe there's a subtle smell on your nose. Notice that. Maybe a taste in your mouth. Notice that. Notice what you're hearing surrounding the environment. So it's a very still, calm, and surrendered state. And just set the intention to stay in this state for the rest of the afternoon and evening and on into your weekend. It's a state of pure formless awareness, of perfect love that underlies all of your perceptions. To help you do that, you can practice today's lesson frequently. Yeshua recommends every hour to bring it to mind, and if you've got a bit more time, listen to the 5-minute breath break I've sent. And it's also longer meditations if you want to do one this evening. So stay in the peace of pure formless awareness. So it is said, so it is done. On the count of 3, you open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around, noticing the various objects in the room. From this deep state of awareness, notice how peaceful your perception of everything is. So this is the source of peace within your mind, and it forms all of your perceptions. That's how it works. So notice it doesn't matter what you're looking at. You have the same feeling of peace. Let your eyes randomly rest on a few objects for a second or two and then move on to something else. And notice that it's the same peace. So you're training your mind that this peaceful awareness is the truth and all other awareness is not true. And that you can always choose this peace because it's always there. As the lesson says, the peace of God or the peace of perfect love is shining in me now. So I hope you've experienced that in the last 20 minutes and in the whole session. That brings us to the end of the session and of the meditation and today's session. So thank you, Sally.
Thank you very much.
I think you're muted still.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll see you next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Many blessings.
Okay. Are you going to join us on Sunday evening or not?
I doubt it. I reckon it'll be Monday now.
Monday. Okay. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a lovely weekend.
You too.